Hey, welcome back to the Lead Counsel Podcast. This is your host, Tom Tona. Before we jump into today's topic, I just want to take a moment to thank the sponsors of the podcast. This episode is sponsored by Tona Law. They're not just another law firm. They're defining what it means to fight for their clients. We get a lot of attorney referrals from across the country. We pay fee participation in all jurisdictions where it's permitted. We focus on integrity, innovation, and relentless advocacy. Tona Law is proving that the business of law can scale without losing its heart. If you want to see how a modern firm is built for impact and happy client referrals, check out tonalaw.com. Mention again the Lead Counsel Podcast, and I'm happy to get on the phone with you. I am joined today by Uma Damodaran. Uma is with StoryLeads. StoryLeads is I use the word ghostwriter. I'm not sure how you guys feel about that, Uma, but they are content curators. How about that? That's a fancy word I like.
Yes,
but
yes.
I kind of refer to you, and I'm going to call this episode the content engine behind lawyer referrals. Uma is a content machine. Uma travels the world. She is the definition of a world traveler. But Uma's got this unique ability to capture voice and then help you design content behind that voice. Uma, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing good. And thank you for the kind words. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, so working with you has been awesome because I was very hesitant to do it. And I know you guys are working with a bunch of people, but you guys have been awesome to work with. And you specifically, you're an excellent writer. I have really enjoyed the process. Most people think about LinkedIn as a means of humble bragging or posting, important updates or verdict alerts. It makes me crazy. So what I like is that you extract stories, you shape them, you capture voice, and you make them memorable. So as the head of content strategy for StoryLeads, what do you actually own in the seat of head of content and strategy?
Okay. Also, this is so funny because usually, Tom, I'm the one asking you questions and you're the one
know.
answering.
How does it feel? How does it feel?
Now I need to apologize to you for a lot of other sessions. But
it's okay. It's all good.
yes. So I'm head of content and strategy at StoryLeads. And right now, what I own is leading the strategic direction of all of our clients' accounts. Knowing who their ICP is and knowing what they need to post about and knowing what their goals are on LinkedIn. So when the content strategists actually work on the client's accounts and they're sometimes so deep into content that they're so deep into the writing of it, they're so deep into making sure the content copywriting is good, the post is good. Sometimes you just need someone else to look at it from a bird's eye view to kind of see if what we're actually posting about is taking the clients into what their goals are. The post is aligned with what the outcome that we need from a higher level point of view. So I act as kind of like an editorial lead. I lead strategy and direction, but also I do have a small set of clients that I still work with on a day-to-day basis where I interview them, kind of like you, Tom. I interview them and I write their own content.
Yeah, that's what happens, right? So somebody like you, you're so good that when I start to get some of the content for review, and I put a lot of stylistic stuff into this stuff that I review, because it's important to me that it doesn't sound like just canned stuff, but you're so good that I'm I can tell when it's not you. You know what I mean? One of the things I love about working with you guys is you guys use storytelling. And to me, that's super powerful because the lawyers that don't know how to tell stories, I can see right away in their content, and it's really hard for me to read. People talking about themselves or their verdict alert stuff, it makes me crazy. I don't think anybody resonates with that stuff. And I think we move people by telling stories. And that's what's so powerful. Why do you think storytelling is more powerful than generic legal content that you see out there when people are putting it out?
I love that question. And I think it's interesting that you said, because lawyers sometimes post, they don't know how to tell good stories and they post about legal verdicts, just, oh, amazing win we got for this client.
Right. It makes me crazy. It makes me nuts.
Yes. But the even crazier thing is that I feel like a lot of lawyers are inherently good storytellers. If they're trial lawyers or if they're putting a case together, they're inherently telling a story for the case. They're diluting lots of information, taking it down to a funnel and just making sure that the end person who hears the story just hears what the actual parts are and what actually moves the case. So a lot of lawyers that I work with are really good storytellers, but I think we just have to pull on that lever and tell them that if you're posting on LinkedIn too, it needs to be a story as well. Because a lot of times when people tell me, oh, they got this verdict or they got the settlement for their case, and I'm just like, oh, well, can you tell me the story behind it? And they're like, oh, there's no story behind it. And I'm like, okay, but how did the client come to you? What were the hurdles that you kind of overcame in that one? And like, what were some of the things that you feel like only you would have done and other lawyers would have missed? And then you kind of slowly get to form a story based on what they kind of tell you. So the thing is, there is a story there and they are good storytellers, but they just need someone to kind of actually pull down the elements of what makes a good story and put it together in the post. And it's always so funny because people always think we're going to make them tell legal stuff. They're like, oh, I don't want to talk about the legal stuff. I don't think a lot of people will resonate with it. But we don't want you to talk about the legal stuff as well. We want you to tell the story of how you helped this client or how you got this case closed. We want you to put it out there in a way that everyone would read it and would be like, oh, wow, like this is so relatable. I mean, think about any lawyer series that you watched on TV, like, Suits, Better Call Saul. Like, nobody's talking a lot about the legal stuff there. It's a story. Like, it's a story about how you help a client, a story about your day. And I think it just needs to translate into LinkedIn as well.
Yeah, I think that that's the highest level of effective communication because people remember stories. They don't
Yeah.
remember verdict alerts. They definitely don't remember when you're talking about yourself. It's when you're talking about the client's the hero of the journey. And, we're just the Sherpas, right? We just
Yes.
usher the client along. So in running the strategy, I know a lot of your clients are personal injury lawyers and other people, but the current role that you're in, setting strategy, what's the intentionality behind it? Like, is the strategy, oh, we're going to get you retainers, or is the strategy, we're going to get you top of mind awareness or something else? Like when you're setting a LinkedIn strategy session, high level, top of the funnel, what's the strategy?
Yeah. So I think the strategy is set based on what your goal is. And what we've seen across lawyers is that there's usually three kinds of goals. Either they want reach, like they just want visibility because they've already built like a solid referral machine. Their marketing is solid. Now they just want to build their own brand. They want to be as like known for like doing this. They want to be a thought leader in their space. So first one is reach. The next one is referrals. Well, obviously, a lot of lawyers are on LinkedIn because they do want to get referrals. It's the best place to get referrals, I would say. And the third is recruitment. Like if they want people to join their firm, like they're actively recruiting younger lawyers, they're actively recruiting other paralegals, attorneys, and they want to kind of showcase the culture that their firm has, or they want to showcase what kind of boss they are. So that would come in the third circle. So it's either always reach, they want visibility, referrals, they want people to send them cases, or recruitment. And the strategy is kind of defined based on which three that you want. So,
or somebody like me, I want all three all the time,
yes,
right? So
yes.
I think about 3 years ago, it's funny that you just said what you said because 3 years ago, I wrote down a strategy for LinkedIn specifically. Well, I knew I wanted to do social media, right? So I said, I got a face for radio, but I love talking to people, so I'll do a podcast. Most people will only listen to it. They don't have to look at this. The second leg of it was I wanted to do writing because I love to write. So I focused on LinkedIn, the podcast, and conferences, right? And I said, what's my purpose? What's my vision for this? And it was those three things, literally all three. I wanted to use it for reach. I wanted to use it for referrals, and I wanted to use it for recruiting. Three R's, reach, referrals, and recruiting, right? So like that probably is why we so aligned really well. And again, I say it candidly, I don't use you guys for everything, but you ultimately always need assistance with content. Gary Vee has a whole content team, a whole content company around it, right? So like somebody was criticizing ghostwriters and AI slop that LinkedIn is inundated with it. I do agree with the AI slop, like it's just ridiculous, but I have no problem working with a company that aids me in content. All the content comes from my head though, and you guys are kind of either the filtering mechanism or the prompting mechanism where you're saying, hey, I want to do a 1-hour interview, right?
Yes.
Because then it becomes scalable and consistent. Even the best of us run out of ideas, and then we work with a company like you, and you guys bring that back to life. So that's why I kind of like working with you on it. So you go ahead, finish. You were going to say something about the 3 R's, reach, referrals, recruiting. Go ahead.
Okay, I want to quickly bounce back to something that you said too. that sometimes people think ghostwriters are going to be writing for you, as in they're going to be coming up with ideas for you. They're going to be like polishing up your ideas a lot. They're going to be writing in their own tone of voice. And I think that's what separates a good ghostwriter from like a bad ghostwriter. Like Thomas, you know this, like when we're on calls, I don't add any ideas of my own into your post. It's all your ideas. I just take them, I filter them sometimes because we discuss a lot of ideas, and then I write it in your tone of voice. And like we put a lot of importance in making sure that our client's tone of voice is right. Like when we first started working together, I think the first 2 weeks while we were working together, it's all about just like reading your past posts, like to see how you write, like how you use words, like how sharp are you, like do you get right to the point, you leave the suspense for the last end of it. So it's all about knowing their story and knowing what they want to talk about and writing it and then putting their tone into it and just packaging it in a way that, gets more reach. And that's it.
So that's interesting. So you guys take a really interesting approach to all of this, where you are actually dissecting voice, tone, usage, word, which is really interesting because for the first year and a half, 2 years, I was doing all of the posting and I was doing it with a high degree of regularity. And even now, I'm jumping in whenever I want. Sometimes I jump in on a day that you guys have scheduled a post and I end up cannibalizing my own stuff, but I don't care. Like to me, I just want to put out tremendous value, whether I'm using I would use the word tool or, something else. For me, it's about, are we delivering value in every story, everything that we're talking about? So how do you guys decide where the purpose goes once you've established, is it for reach? Is it for referrals? Is it for recruiting, or all three? How do you decide, what the post is going to be about? Is it basically what you get back from the interviews?
Yes. So, I mean, first, we've kind of revamped our process a lot in the past few months because we have a lot of clients. We've grown a lot fast, but we're still like 1.5 years old as a company. So we've been kind of constantly refining our process. And so what we do during onboarding is actually ask them, well, just to be clear with the clients, like, what is your goal on LinkedIn? What do you actually want? Sometimes people are super clear. They know that they want referrals. Sometimes people are super clear. They're like, we want recruitment. And based on this, we kind of adjust the percentage of certain number of posts that we put out. So there's usually 4 kinds of posts that we encourage every lawyer to post. So the first one is about their personal stories, like, the fact that, you do jujitsu, or like if someone's a soccer coach or someone does CrossFit, and like personal stories, because that builds kind of relatability with other lawyers. Like if someone else does like MMA, they can be like, oh my God, Tom, like I fight too, we should get together. And it just brings your personality out and shows a glimpse of who you are on LinkedIn. So that's really good for referrals. The other thing is stories of your cases, where again, it's not like a verdict where you're like, oh, I won this big verdict. It's more like, this is how it happened. These were the hurdles. This is what we finally got for the client. And it's actually showing to your audience and your referral partners that, look at my decision making, look at the results that I got, look at how I approach things. And it kind of showcases that side. Then the other one is your opinions. Now, this is, Thomas, I know you do a lot of opinion pieces where you have a strong opinion on something and you actually put it out there. Now, a lot of people, you might get a lot of hate for it, but if you stand firm in your opinion and you believe that, it's another way for people to connect with you. From like, okay, this guy's talking about something that's happening in the industry and I actually agree with him. Like, I do think that things need to change. So that's a point where you can actually show your opinion, showcase your thinking, stuff like that. Then the last one is, again, how you build your firm, or like how you are as a boss, kind of showcase the culture. Like, like in our company, everyone has access to protein shakes. Like, you're just showing the culture, a bit of culture there, so that when new recruits are kind of looking at your post, they can see how you build a firm, how you are as a business owner and not just a lawyer, how the culture is at the firm. So these are kind of like the 4 posts that we ask every lawyer to post about. And then depending on what's working, well, first we look at audience signal. So we do like a strategy check-in every 6 weeks. So we look at the audience signal, like which post is doing really well. And then we kind of double down on that and lower the percentage of the ones that are not doing well. But also, it's another chance for us to check in on the clients and like, has your goal changed? are we now actually looking for referrals out of LinkedIn, or do we want to change it more for recruiting? And then so it's like audience signal plus client signal, and then what we see that's working.
Yeah, it's weird. You guys have this so dialed in. And I know that you guys are growing by leaps and bounds. At a year and a half old, I know for sure that you guys have grown tremendously, but you've got it dialed in. Like, it's fascinating to me, your brain and Jacob's brain. And I know that you've really climbed up fast within the company because he sees in you something super special, right? That's why I thought having you on would be interesting, because he's a tech guy that built this company out of systems and operations, and like, he's got a fascinating brain.
Mm-hmm.
And then he found somebody like you, and you've got a fascinating brain. So it's interesting, your approach to creativity is so highly systematized and technical. It's crazy to me how you guys have married that up, but it's pretty wild to watch. It's
Yeah.
really pretty wild to watch, you know? So kudos to you both. To you both.
Yeah, I also have a tech background, so it could be why too.
Ah, okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. All right, that makes sense. So that's interesting. What is your background? Because for people that don't know who you are, every time I talk to you, you're in a different place in the world. You literally
Yes.
are a nomad. You're like a digital nomad. So give some people behind the scenes of your life, like the travel bug. How many countries have you visited? Have you kept track of countries and cities?
Don't think I have, but I know that in the last 2 years I've maybe lived in like 8 countries and then been in like 11 cities or something like that. But I haven't kept track. It's just, well, for context, let me tell you how this came to be. For context, I was a software engineer when I first started my career, and I was at Wells Fargo. And the thing that kept, it didn't sit well with me. First of all, I didn't have any autonomy. And second of all, I had to go into the office and sit in traffic for 3 hours every day. So I was like, oh, I need a place where, I can be challenged, where I'm more free to like work from wherever I want to work from, but still do a lot of good work. So that's when I kind of started just posting on LinkedIn about what I'm learning. So a lot of my earlier posts on LinkedIn were just about how to speak up in meetings and like how to deal with your bosses and stuff like that. So it was kind of stuff like that. And then I got a lot of people reached out to me just like, oh, I really liked your LinkedIn writing. Can you write for me too? And this is when like personal branding on LinkedIn was not even that big of a thing. So then I was like, oh, is there a market for this? Like I can write for other people by extracting their ideas and just packaging them in a better way. That's super interesting. So I got into freelancing for a bit. I was still working full time at other places. And I'm the kind of person where I need to try out different things to know what I'm actually want to like, give 100% of my time to. Like I want to know what I'm working towards and stuff like that. So freelancing gave me an opportunity to like work with a lot of different companies and a lot of different people to kind of see what I was good at. Ended up in like a startup in Raleigh, North Carolina, worked there for a few months. And then I got an opportunity to go in-house at a ghostwriting agency based out of Berlin. So that was super interesting. But again, the same thing. I was like, oh, I need more autonomy. Like I need more of a challenge. I want to build this from like the scratch. And that's when Jacob kind of reached out and he was like, Uma, like I have 3-4 clients and I need you to take over them. And we're starting this. And what do you think? And immediately I was drawn to the opportunity because Jacob, again, is a person who will just give you complete autonomy and is like, okay, go run with it, build the systems on your own, just do it. I trust you 100%. And he had seen my writing and he had also applied to the company that I was working at. So we had met briefly there. And then, so after that, one of the reasons, again, full autonomy. The other reason was that I could travel and work from anywhere that I wanted to work from. And it just, for like, while I was working in a corporate world, I just always felt like, oh my God, I need to save up my vacation days to actually go on this trip. And then once I was in places like Vietnam, I was like, I only get 10 days here. That's crazy. Like, I want to spend 3 months here. 10 days is like so less. That doesn't make any sense. So that's how this kind of thing started. I got the job and I started traveling. I think I lived in Spain, Philippines, Portugal.
By the way, where'd you go in Spain?
Valencia.
Okay.
The first year I spent 3 weeks in Barcelona and then 3 months the next year in Valencia. It was really nice. And I just learned so much about just traveling and working. Like, I always say this as a flex because I was someone who could not travel without at least 2 check-in bags, even when I'm going for like a small vacation. But now I've been living out of a suitcase for the past 2 years. So I'm just like,
One suitcase.
One check-in bag and that's it. And
Wow.
Yeah, and I'm just like, I just don't need a lot of things. Like, I can survive wherever. And you learn how to make friends with people because you're traveling all the time and like you don't know anyone in these places that you're going to. So you just learn to make friends with the coffee guy that you see all the time. And then you don't speak the language, so you learn how to mimic things out. You're not shy anymore because you're like, you need to get this thing done and you don't speak the language, you just need to ask for it. So yeah, I definitely think traveling has taught me a lot, and I've somehow found a way for to dial in with my work too, even with the travel that I'm doing. So if I'm working from another continent, I know that mornings are going to be my sacred time where I can do deep work before my team wakes up, and then I can just go into the meetings and stuff like that. So it's different ways of working in different continents, but I love the freedom, I love the autonomy, and I feel as a person it makes me work better.
Yeah, I also think listen, I love to travel. We have that in common, and you got to send me a list on Barcelona. I got to know where to go when I go there.
Yes, definitely.
But to me, international travel it just brings a rich understanding of life and culture outside. It truly, every time we go to Europe, it changes my outlook on life a little bit. Every country's different and every country brings a different flavor of richness to your life. What you're doing that's super interesting is living there for periods at a time. 3 months in Vietnam or Barcelona or whatever it is. Like, to me, that's awesome. And I think, listen, you're doing it right. Like, you're doing it at a time you should do it, right? So that's pretty interesting. Quick break to thank the sponsors of the podcast. This episode is supported by Tonal Law, a modern law firm built on integrity and innovation. Learn how they're changing the game at tonallaw.com. Attorney referrals accepted from across the country. You'll see what it's like when you send us a case. You'll have some happy clients. Switch for a second, because I think that there's a balance that you guys have mastered also. How do you balance authenticity with strategic positioning?
That's a really good question, because we always tell our clients that they need to be more bold on LinkedIn. Like, they need to actually showcase who they are. Like, the people that they come into the content calls, they need to showcase who they are exactly on LinkedIn. And for some of them, it's a little bit harder because they don't want to come off across as like they're bragging, or they don't want to come across as like, oh, they're too opinionated and stuff like that. But we always tell, well, there's a line, right? We're not going to force you into doing something or writing a hook that you don't think is true. But we're definitely going to force you into writing that hook if you think that's true, and the only thing holding you back is that you're scared that people will judge you or something like that. So that's the line. Like, if you have bold opinions and you really stand by those bold opinions, we're going to do our best to get them to share it. Like, we're going to write the body in a way that you're comfortable with. But if you really believe in that, we're going to get you to post it. But what we're not going to do is say, I know you don't believe this, but if you write this, you will get more views and you might bring in more followers. Yeah, like, so if it's something that they believe in, they stand behind 100%, and they just need that little nudge, which again is where a ghostwriter / content strategist actually helps, because sometimes we go into the hole of thinking that everyone will read all of my posts and all of them are judging me, and like, nobody has enough time in their day to actually do that. It's just a piece of content that you believe in and that you're putting it out to the world. You might get some haters. I'm not going to say a lot of haters. You might get some haters, but that's just part of the game that you're playing on LinkedIn. It's a part of, lawyers and advertising and marketing. That's just part of the game. So if you believe in it,
look, I think that I've come to a way different view of all of that stuff as I start to really dig down business-wise, core values, right? We just did our core values. We're in the middle of revamping all of our EOS stuff, right? So you don't want to attract everybody. What you want to attract is your people. Your people will find you if your stuff on LinkedIn is good. People also, I think what you just said was pretty interesting. People overestimate how fleeting the attention span is at this point. Like, if I read a hook and I'm like, here we go again, I just keep scrolling. And it could be friends of mine. Like, I only want to read what I'm interested in. So you literally on LinkedIn have one sentence to get me to click through, and odds are I'll just keep scrolling if you haven't got me in that hook. Right?
Yes.
So unless it's somebody that I really, really, I'm like, just curiosity gets me and I got to click through. The interesting part of all of it is, and I forget what it's called, there's a name for it, where we think that people think about us all the time. We're the spotlight. What if people are overestimating just how much or how little people actually think about them. They're overestimating it. Just post what's valuable to you or that you think is valuable to other people. I don't post what's valuable to me. I try to put out what I would have found valuable 20 years ago, 15 years ago, 5 years ago. I'm just at that stage of my career where I can say, oh, this is what I learned along the way. And for me, I'm usually posting about stuff that I failed at, right? My
Yeah.
spectacular failures or my pain points or the stuff that I'm literally learning real time that I wish I had seen it was a blind spot or whatever else. So if you had to give advice to anybody that's doing it themselves, what should lawyers stop posting immediately?
Oh my God. Well, first of all, like you said, the legal verdicts and just putting a link out there and it's like, it's a win and we got this much. Well, that needs to go immediately. And just because it's lawyers, I would just say, I wouldn't tell them to stop posting. I would just start telling them post more stories. Just, it all comes down to storytelling. Post what you think a version of yourself 20 years ago would want to hear. Post what you think the younger lawyers would want to hear. Post about the hot takes and the opinions that you have in the industry that you're afraid to post about because you're worried that someone will judge you. They won't. Yeah, so I would just tell them to actually post more and not stop posting.
But it's funny because I think that's kind of the sweet spot, right? What you just said, where I always picture myself at a cocktail party, right? And I've been at cocktail parties with lawyers. And the same thing happens all the time, but my interests are very specific. So if a lawyer pins me in the corner and he's like, let me tell you about this case, literally in my head, I'm going to sleep. I'm like, I can't get out of this conversation fast enough. We're talking about cases. I've been doing this 30 years. But when I get in a cocktail hour with an entrepreneur who's talking about business, that guy's got me all night if he wants to talk. That lady can talk to me all night if he wants to talk to me about business. So maybe there are people out there that like hearing about cases. I don't know. I'm just not one of them. Other than, like, I follow one guy, and I don't think he's a client of yours, but when he talks about his trial experience, but he's doing it at like this really high level. And, when he talks about how he does it, I pay attention because I've heard him speak.
Yeah.
And when he just talked about, it's a guy named Andrew Finkelstein. I don't know if you're connected to him on LinkedIn, but when he talks about how he settled a case for $16 million and gave the adjuster, like, it wasn't even negotiable. I forget what number they were at, like $4 or $8 million. And then at 4:30 at night, they called his cell phone and said, all right, you got the 16.9 million or whatever. That to me gets me because it's the negotiation aspect, the psychology of negotiation, all of that stuff. I'll read every one of his posts. But I've also met him in person. He's a super fascinating guy and he does know how to tell a good story, So, so how do you approach somebody who calls up and they're skeptical about LinkedIn? Lawyer calls you, they're skeptical. And you guys only work with lawyers, right?
Yeah, lawyers and a few legal vendors too.
Oh, okay. Yes, I know one of the legal vendors that you work with. And he's a super fascinating guy who has really reached the pinnacle of what he does, if we're talking about the same guy. But I won't out him on here, but I'm a fan of his because of what he's done business-wise. Anybody that can do what he did business-wise with his exit, he's got my attention. So I don't care if it's you interviewing him and writing his content or not, I'm reading it.
Yes.
But how do you approach people where they're like, LinkedIn? How do you approach them about that?
Yeah. I think the first thing to always ask them is, what do they need right now, like out of their business? And most probably they will say that, oh, they do need more visibility, or like they do need more cases. They would want more referral partners, or like, oh, they do actually want to get good people on the firm. And I'm like, the answer to all of the pain points that you have right now is LinkedIn. Like, I know Jacob has already talked about a lot of the results that we've gotten for lawyers, but we've had people reach out with cases worth 7 figures with just like the second post that we did for them. We have legal vendors who have their calendars booked out just because they've been posting on LinkedIn for like 3 times a week. We just got off a call with a federal trial lawyer, and he's like, one of my posts, it didn't even go viral, but he was just talking about a case that he did, again, in a super interesting way, in a storytelling way. And one of the general counsels kind of call him up and we need an experienced trial lawyer right now. So
wow, that's interesting.
I think there's something unappreciated about being top of mind, especially for lawyers. Like, again, we cannot predict when the referrals will come in, but we can predict that if someone has a referral that they need to give you and you come up just posting on LinkedIn about your experiences and who you are, they're going to be like, oh my God, I see Tom all the time. I should just call up Tom. I
Well,
know
you know
he's a
what's
good.
funny? I was
Yeah.
just going to say, so I very rarely post about personal injury results. I mean, we settle
Yes.
cases every week. I could be posting a bit. Remind me the next call we do. I'll talk about the big wins we had this week. One week,
Yes.
we settled all of these pretty big cases.
Yes.
So, but I never talk about that on LinkedIn. But why people refer to me that I hear most often when I pick up the phone from guys across the country or ladies across the country that are sending me cases, what they tell me is, I know that you've got your systems and operations dialed in such a way that the client will always be communicated with. And because I follow you on LinkedIn, one of the
Yeah.
first things I hear from every interview that gets done in my firm is, oh, they said they listened to the podcast. Oh, they said they follow you on LinkedIn, right? So, I think at the core of all of this, I boil it down to the simplest thing. I love figuring out how to always be improving communication. Social media is truly meant to form relationships, not with everybody. I don't use it to sell. I use it to build community. So I am there when they need me. All the lawyers get New York cases. I'm there when they need me. Other, vendors, I actually use it all the time to hunt vendors that I need or for recruiting or whatever else. So for me, I think I don't know. I don't find myself talking about wins as much as how I do what I do. And listen, we have numbers, we have big wins. I just tend not to be talking about them all the time because I like to talk about my team, the team I'm building, the team I've built, how we build it, the messiness of all of it. Like people really like to hear about messiness.
Yes. They love to hear about other people's mistakes and what they've made.
And I always show up to our calls and I know you're going to say, so anything happened interesting? I'm like, nah. And you're like, and then an hour later or 45 minutes later, I'm like, God, I haven't shut up. She got me talking. How do you get people talking is a really interesting thing because you're a great interviewer. How do you get people talking?
This is a really interesting question and something, again, like at first, when we first used to hop on content calls with clients, like I used to come in with not a lot of questions. I would just have 5-6 questions to ask them and we'd sometimes get content, we'd sometimes not. But we've, again, refined our process over like the last 1.5 years where we're like, we know what they want to talk about and we're going to ask targeted questions based on that. So I think the first is the prep that we do before we even get on the call. Tom, I know you sometimes use it, might not, but every question I kind of ask you is bouncing off the ideas that we prepared for like you in an interview prep. So we have like a 1-pager, which is like the interview prep. There's probably like 50 questions on there. And it's all based on what we know Tom has talked about on his LinkedIn. So those are the topics we know that you're interested in talking about. So then we compile a list of 20 questions based on that. Then we also know that a lot of people on LinkedIn are talking about really interesting stuff. And now the idea is not to like plagiarize their content or anything, but just to take the topic itself and see if you have inputs on that. So I don't know if you see it, but we put a lot of lawyers on the interview prep and we say that they talked about this. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you have a valid opinion on this? Do you have like an opposing opinion on this? Just to get your take on this. And then the other part of it is what's happening with the world. Sometimes we have like this research engine going where we scour articles from like Law 360, Wall Street Journal, Financial Times, just anything that's happening within law that people would find interesting. Then we include those links as well and then ask questions based off of that.
Yeah, I like it because it does get you out of the box of sitting behind your desk and all of a sudden you're just having a conversation. Next thing you know, there's an hour of content that you guys have a whole month of content ideas for, which turn into posts and voice. And, one of the things I take away from all of the stuff that I do on LinkedIn, and I think you guys probably would agree, is you don't listen. I joke around all the time. You're a LinkedIn influencer. That and 50 cents might get you on a subway, but it's really about visibility, memorability, and trust from the right people. My entire 17,000 connections, purposely all legal or medical related, right? Medical, technology, and legal related by design, right? I think that that's where it kind of starts is sit down. People that are going to try to do it yourself, you can, but after a year or two of doing it yourself, that's where it becomes really valuable knowing somebody like you, Uma, because you then turn it up a notch. You guys never run out of ideas because that's your job, is to make sure you've got fresh content oozing out of the people that are your clients. And next thing you know, you're turning it into this crazy journey on LinkedIn, right? And then all of a sudden you've got people that have 50,000 connections, or, didn't you have an employment lawyer that turned into this crazy, explosive, viral overnight sensation you were working with? Tell that story.
So I need to check the exact stats right now, but I think it was like she had around like 8,000 followers or something when we first started. And then within like the first 3 or 4 posts, we got to like 23K followers. Like one of them just went super viral. That became the force behind her entire brand. She's now like writing books about it. So there's a lot happening there.
Crazy.
And then within the next 6 months, I think we reached like 60K followers, 65K followers and stuff like that.
Wow.
Just took a life of its own. And that's the thing. Like sometimes if you're looking for visibility, sometimes you just might need that one post to like, that's all you need.
I have to tell you something too. Like, so I'm in the process now. I need somebody just for organic on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, right? Mostly TikTok. I started posting on TikTok 2-3 years ago. And then the person that was in my office started her own company. We don't work together anymore. That account's still performing. I have not put up new content in a year. And I said to my director of operations, I'm like, we need somebody in here once a week or once a month to just shoot enough content to carry me for 30 days. Once a week, maybe. Come in, shoot a couple of hours, and you will literally have a month's worth of content because that account is performing. And I don't understand the virality of TikTok, but man, I said one thing about motorcycle accidents and my phone just blew up. Literally, I was like, my phone is going to melt from all this stuff. Like, I'm talking hundreds of thousands. It's still going today. That post is like, it's got to be 2 years old at this point. It's still going. Like, it's crazy. And I've had people walk in, I hear them down the halls like, oh, I know you from TikTok. Talking to people in my office, I know you from TikTok, So, it's crazy the way social media works. So if anybody's listening to this, just step up your game. Whatever it is, LinkedIn for lawyers should be mandatory because then you become that go-to person for B2B referrals. That's what we're talking about. You're not going to get an injured person looking for a lawyer. You're going to get a lawyer who's looking to refer an injured person. Or you will get immigration. You will get employment law from, LinkedIn. But working with you guys has shown me the power of that. I think one of our posts went viral and I almost freaked out and took it down because I was like, oh, no, that's not what I meant. And then like 50% of the people were hate. And then I had to remind myself like, what do I care? Who cares if they hate me? I don't care. All I need is the 50% of people that agree with me to send me more cases. That's all. So now as you guys are expanding, you said Jacob had 4 accounts when you came on. How many accounts are you guys up to at this point?
As of today, 92, I believe.
Wow, that's crazy.
That's crazy.
That is crazy. That's a pretty explosive growth in a year and a half. So now are you bringing on more writers and strategists?
Yes, of course. I mean, we're right now in hiring season where we're always looking for like good writers. We're looking for good strategists. We're looking to fill in a lot more other roles as well, like good client success managers, good outreach people, business development people. So yeah.
How do you train writers and strategists to hear the voice and capture the voice? How do you train that?
So I think some of it is natural. Like we are just looking at the people that we've hired to our company and we have like impossible standards. Like I want them to be the best content strategist there is. I want them to be way better than me, obviously. So when I look at it from that perspective, a lot of people that we've hired have journalistic backgrounds. Like they know how to ask good questions, and not only good questions, they know how to follow up with even better questions. Like you give me an answer, like what are you going to do with that answer? Is there more to be like explored there? Like
you're like pulling threads, basically.
Pulling threads, basically. So a lot of people have journalistic backgrounds. And then it kind of comes on to like, there's a lot of things being said on the call, right? Not everything is going to be content, because we have a lot of lawyers who show up and then they talk about a lot of different things. Some things, mix well together, some don't. So it's kind of about untangling that thread and making sure that we have a story that goes exactly from point A to point B. So a lot of our writers, when they first start, well, first we have like insane number of assessments and trials that they have to go through to just make sure they're at that level. But once they are at that level, it's just then about repetition. So I'm now acting as the editorial lead. It's also about giving them good feedback on like the work that they do when they write the posts, and then always making sure that they know, what is this post trying to say? How can you encompass it in one sentence? Is it clear what the takeaway is? Is this instantly applicable, or like what people resonate with this? Kind of always hammering down the questions that they need to think about into their brains with like giving them feedback, making sure they do this. And most of our writers are super impressive. They're super good that they catch on after like 1 to 2 months on like what we're trying to do, what is the brand that we're trying to build. So yeah, usually it's just a lot of feedback loops and a lot of repetition.
That's awesome. And look, I think, again, I kind of look at you guys, and where I take issue with, again, this guy is somebody I really respect, and he was like complaining about ghostwriting and AI slop on LinkedIn. First of all, if you're using AI to write posts, and I'm talking to the people that are listening to this, not to you, stop it. Just stop doing that. No one wants to read that. And I can't tell you the number of people that have outsourced thinking using AI. Like, to me, having somebody like you're not thinking for me. You're helping me organize my thoughts into content. It's my voice. I still, in the process, if anybody wants to know the behind the scenes with Uma does an interview. Uma has all of this stuff organized into content ideas that I then have to go in and basically expand, rewrite, restructure everything. And that is my thinking, my touch. That's it. That's the way it is. It's still work. This is not push button turnkey. Uma all of a sudden is in my brain. It has Tom's voice. So, where I take issue, and this is a little bit of a deviation, but I have to say this. I cannot stand what's happening right now with AI. And when I say that there is a whole tidal wave of people that are using AI in the worst way possible. Every email they write to me is drafted by AI. Stop it. I'm not reading it. And when I pay people and they do that, I fire people for doing that. It is a kiss of death if you are using AI to try to communicate with me, because I have such a finely tuned eye and ear for voice. And if I find out somebody's doing that and it's somebody I pay, I'm firing them. Vendors, team members, stop using AI to communicate with me. I can use AI and I can create the AI content I want. If I'm paying you and you're using AI, I had a vendor back in the day produce this beautiful 30-page report. I threw it in the garbage. I fired him. I can use Claude. I'm one of the most sophisticated tech guys out there. I can use ChatGPT. How dare you bill me the enormous bill you're billing me and sending me AI bullshit slop? Enough. Stop it already. And so when you put it out on social media, you lose credibility. And this vendor wanted to use AI to put my image and likeness out in content, which he did. And I was like, all right, we're done. We're done. We're done. I'm not doing it. People did not like it. People did not respond to it, nor should they. You know what I mean? So sorry for the rant. I went off on a tangent.
No, it's true. Like, there was this post recently, I forget who wrote it, but he was basically saying we're in a wave where we're drowning in stuff, like just stuff, because AI is good at coming up with stuff. Like, if I say I want a pitch deck talking about this, it will give me the pitch deck talking about this, and that just goes on to the next person. And so we're just drowning in stuff without even looking at what do we actually need? What is the structure for this pitch deck that I'm envisioning? What are the things that I want to clearly put across? And I think that's something that you have to think about before you use AI, and not after.
That's what I was just saying. Like, we are going to go down a rabbit hole right now, but I think it's worth going down. And I am seeing this with clients. Every client is treating AI like it's their best friend and they're a better lawyer. I've literally just spent 40 minutes on the phone with a client. And I know they were using ChatGPT, the free version, not even the good version. And I don't even think ChatGPT should be used anymore. I like Claude. But my rule of thumb is this. I did deep work for 8 hours yesterday. I didn't check emails. I didn't check phone messages, nothing. I used Claude to help me through a project, but it was 8 hours of me thinking using Claude with intentionality. I was not outsourcing the thinking like, hey, give me my EOS vision. No, I was using prior documents. I was going back and forth with Claude to then work through the process. 8 hours of intensive work. I was exhausted after. If you're using AI with no forethought, planning, intentionality, like you just said, you have to go in and say, what do I need from this tool? Uma, I am literally at wit's end with the fact that people are being paid 6 figures and they're outsourcing their thinking. You are paid real value to think. If you're a marketing vendor and you give me AI slop, you're going to be my ex-marketing vendor. And you should be. You should get fired for doing that. Don't pass off some bullshit you pumped into ChatGPT or Claude as your original work product. I'm telling you, listen to this. I have seen projects where people literally copy and paste it with the iterative sentence at the bottom that ChatGPT gives you. I can do this next. Would you like this? And they don't take it out. You're laughing, but doesn't that strike you as insane?
It does. It does. It's crazy where things are going.
So what do you see as the future of this? Like, I do think it gives a competitive advantage to creativeness.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you're a true creative. I have read a lot of your writing now after we know each other for like 2 years now. And I've read your content. I've read your own personal content on LinkedIn. To me, people crave real, authentic writing and thoughts. I mean, do you agree with that? Do you think that people could just mirror what you do using ChatGPT?
No, definitely. So one of the things I was about to say that I like that there are a lot of AI writers out there because it just makes it so easy to differentiate ourselves. Like I love that. I love that there are people using AI to like write posts and do stuff and running their whole agency on them. Like that's great. Like because less competition for us, right? And it's like it's so easy. All we have to do is use our brains and we get there faster. And one of the best things for me when it comes to writing is that I've always thought that it gives me a clarity of thought. Like it filters down what I actually want to say and I can think about what is the actual message that I want to say without mixing in all this stuff. It's like clarity of thought, clarity of thinking and stuff like that. So I still think that holds true when we're writing with AI and without AI, because with AI, it's kind of like you ask AI, what do you think is a good ending for this that makes sense? And AI will give you something as opposed to you are coming up with the idea.
I'm telling you, dude, I think that AI is melting brains right now. I think that we're getting dumber by the second. I mean, not me, but I think that I have seen rampant misuse, over-reliance. And I got to tell you, I see with clients now. So all of a sudden, like what they don't realize, clients are going there and saying, I'm wrong on 30 years of my area of practice. Or I'm like, wait a minute. Do you not know that ChatGPT will tell you whatever you want to make you happy? They'll tell you you're good looking. It'll tell you how smart you are. And it will tell you if you say to me, is my lawyer an idiot? It will say, of course your lawyer's an idiot. I know better than that. So it's like staggering because people are literally destroying their brains. Right? And like, I heard somebody compare AI to GPS, and I can relate to this. So I have a GPS unit in my car. I have it, built in.
Yes.
And I can't get anywhere without that thing. So now we're outsourcing thinking, and I refuse to use it this way. And my daughter, I said, oh, look, people will pay for creativity. Will pay for creative people who solve problems. Never, ever, ever outsource creativity or problem solving. Learn to be a creative and you will feed yourself forever. Look at you. How old are you?
I'm 25.
25. You literally work wherever you want, whenever you want, across the world, because you're very valuable, very smart, and you're creative, right? And so if you can be a creative problem solver who's a high-level communicator, don't ever outsource that stuff. Don't ever. And listen, I love tech, but I use tech as a force multiplier. I did the work yesterday of probably 8 people using Claude. Different. That's different. So like, listen, again, working with you guys, it's weird. It's weird because you're almost a tech company, but you're not a tech company. You're a creative company.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, again, to give context here, we're both Power AI users. Like, I love Claude Code. I spend a lot of time with Claude Code. We have so many things running on Claude Code, but we use it for the right things. As cliche as that sounds, we know when to use tech, where to use it, and we use it responsibly.
Right. Say that again. Say that again, because it's really important.
We know when to use tech and where to use it, and we use it responsibly. And that's it.
And that's the key. And like, I know a lot of newer attorneys listening to this. Like, I give warnings to people when they come, it's just starting in my firm. I'm like, listen to me. We are tech forward. We have AI. I'll know. I will know. Don't think you can game the system. You know, I've been doing it for too long. So, look, let's land the plane with this. To me, one of the goals that you brought as a key takeaway to this entire interview was the goal is not to go viral. The goal is not to be an influencer. The goal is to become trusted before the referral or a client conversation ever happens. Like, that's one of the biggest things that you guys have positioned and developed many, many lawyers for: trust. They become trusted. They get top of mind. So if people want to connect with you, Uma, what's the best way to do it? Is it LinkedIn?
LinkedIn, of course.
Is there anything you want to add to all of this?
No. It was great talking with you, Tom. And it was great to be on the other side of this for once. And I'll see you next week for our content call.
Absolutely. All right, Uma, thanks for coming on. Thank you for listening to this episode of Lead Counsel Podcast. Your host, Tom Tona. Go Anywhere podcasts are distributed. Follow us. Leave us a 10-star review. Share some episodes with your friends. And thanks for listening. I appreciate it. Thank you. This episode is sponsored by Tona Law. They're not just another law firm. They're defining what it means to fight for their clients. We get a lot of attorney referrals from across the country. We pay fee participation in all jurisdictions where it's permitted. We focus on integrity, innovation, and relentless advocacy. Tona Law is proving that the business of law can scale without losing its heart. If you want to see how a modern firm is built for impact and happy client referrals, check out tonalaw.com. Mention again the Lead Counsel Podcast, and I'm happy to get on the phone with you.